led by the Algerian Foreign Minister, Mr Ramtane Lamamra, flew over to Russia and Ukraine to find a common ground between the two countries. So, what role can the Arab leaders play to end this conflict?
Well, as was just indicated, in the United States, what we're trying to do is to pull together some sort of way for the Americans to think about the world again. And one of the reasons that this is so important, coming back to the specific thing you asked me, is think about the old days of the non-aligned movement, the days when you had this conception that there was going to be a development from poverty into prosperity, and that different sectors of the world would lead that. Now, if you look at what has happened to Iran, Iraq, and Pakistan, and Afghanistan, with respect to American involvement in those areas. American involvement, and yes, there's British financial involvement, but it's American. What has happened? These were transitional nations in all cases. And of course, with the case of Iran, you go back to 1953 with the CIA's involvement there. Iraq, we know very well. Afghanistan, the United States has been in for 20 years. Now look at what has just happened with Pakistan. But the thing that distinguishes all those nations is that they are what you might have called transitional nations. Nations which, by the way, saw nuclear technology as a stepping stone, as an essential stepping stone from poverty to prosperity, scientifically allowing them to free themselves from the dominance of fossil fuels or other sorts of limitations. And what happened was that they were pounded back. They were pounded back into underdevelopment. That was the concept, at least. Well, it hasn't happened with Pakistan, but it has been, and it hasn't quite happened with Iran either. But it's obvious. Now, why is this significant in terms of this issue of the Islamic world? Today, it's a case, as in one sense it was even at the time of the Bandung Conference, that this represents a capability to come in as a kind of a mediating capability in one sense. But if you define it from the standpoint of the notion that the most advanced technologies in science, the research and development must be the actual commonwealth of all people. This is something that is very much at the core of the Belt and Road Initiative, something which, by the way, the mentor of our magazine, the creator, Lyndon LaRouche, the late Lyndon LaRouche, very much insisted on. That's an American perspective. It used to be an American perspective, as Vladimir Putin has, in fact, insisted when he talks about Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Perfectly
We're having a conference that's happening this Saturday. That's right. I'm going to be involved with that. And it's Schiller Institute Conference. And the idea is a new defense, security, and development architecture for all nations. And that's the perspective I believe the United States has got to adopt.